Welcome to the Directors UK podcast. We're the professional association for UK film and TV directors. No matter the format, no matter the genre, our featured directors share their approach to the craft. We hope you enjoy.
I mean, there are films and films. This is something of a three-ring circus. I mean, apart from the fact that it's the only film in history that's got over 300 characters with the same name, it is, whatever you can say about it, it is a fantastic piece of massive operation. It's a three-ring circus. So do you want to talk about how you went about tackling it with so many things going on and so many characters? How did you approach it?
How did I approach it? I guess the rom-com of it all was the initial thing. I don't know when the last time you watched a rom-com. Actually, when was the last time you watched a rom-com?
I haven't come here to be interrogated by you.
but they've got quite a bad rep of recent years. And for being quite kind of, it's like glossy and shiny and the half-baked characters. And so it's got a terrible rep. So my first thing was like, how do you make a good rom-com? And I quite liked the challenge because the great ones of, the 90s, When Harry Met Sally, etc. And I was like, this feels like a kind of mad challenge to try and take it on. But also what I really liked about when I first read the script is it has this kind of gnarly dark heart at the center of it that's like, what is it to be a romantic in this day and age? Is he a creep? Is he just a hopeless romantic? And what is it to sort of be like that today? And I also liked how that kind of held up to the light the sort of fetishization of that kind of behavior in those films in the 90s that's now inappropriate. So there was a lot that I was like, oh, this is kind of fun, as well as it being a romance. And I wanted it to be funny. So I don't know, it was a lot. I don't know how I started now.
Well, what I was as much as anything asking you about was the scale and the complexity of what was going on. And how long did you shoot it for?
It was 37 days, producer. Yeah, 38.
That's quick.
It was quick.
For all that.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of time. But it was... I guess, yeah. I lived in Manchester for 6 months while we made it. Got there, said to our locations department, like, what we're doing, like, show me your iconic landmarks, show me the kind of nooks and crannies and back streets, and let's try and sort of start there, I guess, and make it, and really anchor it there, because there's hardly anything set in Manchester. There's so much shot there for London, for Chicago, for whatever, but there's so little set there. So I was like, let's do this. How do we put this city on the big screen?
And talk about how you worked with the actors, because obviously there are the big scenes and all of that, and that's partly what I've just asked you about. But then you got performances out of stuff out of individual actors and nuances between. Talk about how you went about all that.
Well, Spike and Gary are very different actors. And she's a sort of child actor, so she's been doing it for a really long time. So she's really composed and controlled, and she works really hard, and she journals for her characters, and she had this very specific way of working. And Spike, by absolute contrast, is so fizzy and buzzy and alive in his skin and super improv and doesn't necessarily think before he does anything. And those two combined was this kind of mad energy that was just sort of fun to let.
Was it difficult?
It wasn't difficult because they were both so dedicated and did so much work to sort of understand their characters better. And there's a lot of two shots in there, and I loved just seeing them respond to each other in a two shot because they're so different.
And did you have time to work with the other, because there's quite a number of relatively central characters?
Yeah, there was a bit of rehearsal time. There wasn't loads, there never is, but I made sure I had a bit with all of them, especially the family. So Owen and his brother and Freya, his sort of sister-in-law character, like, we had a really nice rehearsal day with them where I wanted to really bed in that kind of family dynamic. And the same with Anna and Emily's, their friendship. I really wanted all of the periphery characters to feel proper and not just like comedy foils for the main characters.
Well, you achieved that, definitely.
Thanks.
Talk about how you worked with your cinematographer.
Well, again, the plan was, how do we make a good rom-com? It's not too shiny and it's not too glossy, and I wanted it to feel really alive and have an energy to it. And Rachel Clark her happy place is a sort of handheld camera on her shoulder. She's a proper kind of dancer, and she was amazing. We kind of decided to go quite sort of like when Harry Met Sally, a lot of like sort of like lovely steady cam and just hold it and let them wander around and do their thing. But then, so them, those two, we wanted to just sort of lean into their chemistry. But then stuff like the podcast scene, that's the central kind of big interview, that, I mean, I was like, this is my Frost Nixon. So we really studied that and wanted it to feel really sort of serious, even though it's silly and funny and ridiculous,
Yes.
and it's a media student.
Sure.
That we really planned that, and it was all these different locations as well. So that one was that required the most planning.
Do you have storyboards?
We did do a bit for that, yeah. We didn't do for much else, but for that podcast scene we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to what extent were you thinking about, I mean, it sounds from what you say as though you were thinking about Manchester and the spirit, what for you is the spirit of the city, which is quite a specific thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I felt a huge responsibility, because Manchester's like the coolest city, and if you spent any time there, it's like music and history and fashion and football, and it all just like vibrates off it. And so I felt a real responsibility to try and get it right and nod to the nostalgia of the big bands of sort of Joy Division and all of that, but also kind of bring it's a modern story, and it had to be absolutely anchored in today. So it was a real sort of mash of the two. So there was sort of new musicians, I guess, helped that.
And you mentioned a certain well-known group. Talk about music in the film.
Well, but even before I got the job, I started making a playlist, which I'm sure like all directors do, and I'm still adding to it in this quite sort of desperate way, because I can't quite let the film go. But the playlist is about 18 hours long, and I wanted it to have a specific kind of sonic like narrator, I guess, and I wanted to sort of start with, as I say, nod to the legacy of the Hacienda and those huge bands, because some of the biggest bands in the world have come out of there. And yeah, recognize that, but also like showcase loads of new bands and new up and coming ones. So like the Blossoms, who are not necessarily up and coming, but to get them to play the Leavers Ball was so cool, because it was one of those dream situations, and they were just like, yeah, cool, as long as we don't look shit, we're into it. And I was like, I promise you won't look shit. And then sort of people like Anthony Schmerick, who wrote the song that Owen sings on the podcast, and his producer kind of mixed the final version at the end. He's this amazing new kind of spoken word poet who's coming out. So I just basically listened to a lot of music, went to a lot of gigs, and sort of tried to figure out how to mash them all in together.
So for you, apart from anything else, is the film a poem to the, an homage to music?
Yeah, I think so. It was really important. And
I mean, I guess what's great about, in a way, behind what I've just said, is that what's great about the film is it's about a lot of different things, it's on different levels, which is quite an achievement, really.
That's nice.
What would be different what would you go back and change?
Mike, you can't ask me that.
It's okay if you say nothing.
I mean, I feel really lucky, because generally, like, I stand by it. I love it, and I'm super proud of it. There's always like a couple of compromises where scenes are shorter than perhaps I would have done, but generally, I'm really proud of it.
I shouldn't ask you this, but I'm going to. To what extent were you interfered with?
By the big bad studio.
We all know what I'm talking about, so
Do you know what I feel? I mean, we had notes, of course we had notes, and it was for the shoot, I feel like I was kind of left to get on with it. I think there was a kind of, this is a low budget, make your movie in Manchester.
So you didn't get any notes?
So I got notes. I got notes in the edit, of course.
No, in the shoot.
In the shoot, yeah, not really. And, the exec visit a couple of times, invariably on the big days. Like Tim Bevan came to set when it was 200 extras on Canal Street and just sort of stood in the corner. But I was like, hi. But
then the edit?
And then the edit, yeah, there were notes. There's always notes. But generally I felt like I could sort of fight the battles and yeah, and pick them. And like I say, there's nothing in there
good.
that I hate.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel really lucky.
You are.
Yeah.
So you were involved. It's not your script officially, but you were involved very much in the writing of it. Is that correct? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of directors are involved in the script writing process, and I think I really wanted, again, if I was going to make a romantic comedy, I wanted it to be good, and I wanted the characters to be really real, and so kind of that was my thing, was pushing the depth of character. Why do they behave the way they do? And so I guess my thing was, both of them have quite complicated like mother relationships, so I sort of bedded some of that in, like why she does what she does, and he's dealing with this grief element. I needed to understand why he would go on this mad journey, why he would, I mean, we're all guilty of projecting a fantasy relationship onto someone, but the extent that he does it, I was like, why? And I sort of had this sort of grief idea, but yeah, I mean, it also, like, there's the script you write and the script that you shoot, and then it's changing constantly, and then you cast the actors and you're like, oh, they need something else here. So it was this constantly moving, shifting thing, and then there's the one that you edit.
How much improvisation was involved?
When it comes to Spike, there was a bit, and I always just like to sort of let him do it, because he really loved it, and some great stuff came out of it. Him and his brother, him and Jack, who plays his brother, were heaven in that kind of early kitchen scene. There's the improv there.
Where does that relationship come from? Do you know? Between the brothers and the mother wanting to sell all that stuff.
Where does that come from?
Yeah, I mean, was that based on anything that
No, I think it was just me wanting to have a bit more like depth of that, and I have a sort of bit of a sort of ticking time bomb, and have something else be going wrong at home, and have him still be, I guess, just not have the whole thing be just about this relationship. I quite liked this sort of coming of age element, I guess. Just there's other stuff going on in this romantic comedy outside of the relationship, as is real life, right? We all have lives.
I mean, it is one of the clever things about the structure of the film, is that it's not just about finding Emma. It's about there's other things going on, which would be going on anyway. So that's great. Not everybody will know this, but you've made 2 rather brilliant shorter films in the past, one of which, Domestic Policy, both of which you wrote with your own original ideas. Domestic Policy I'm particularly fond of. It's a really brilliant and funny and quite profound thing. So my question is, are you going to dig your heels in and do your own stuff?
Yes, I'm writing. I'm writing a new thing at the moment, but I feel like we should also clarify how we know each other. Because presumably people are like, what the hell's going on? Like, what's Mike Leigh doing interviewing about a rom-com?
Well, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't a good film.
Which is the biggest compliment ever. I used to work for Mike 14 years ago, almost to the day. I came in as production assistant at Thin Man Films. And at that point, I was writing. I didn't know I wanted to be a director, but stay with me. I think it's working for you that made me realize. The kettle. It was my first week of working for Mike, and I was tasked with ordering him a kettle for his rehearsal space, which was like the next door building. And I was like, yeah, I'm on it. And I ended up ordering, I don't know how this happened, but like one of those like tiny like doll's house ones. And it arrived, and I don't know I don't know if you knew about it, but I just told you that outside and was like, shit.
Yes, I mean, I only heard about this before, so I just thought but anyway, we digress.
We do. But yeah, 14 years ago.
There you go. What then is next? Or don't you want to talk about?
I don't know. It's not fully formed yet. I don't know. To be honest, I'm trying to get over the grief of letting this film go. And it's been quite the sort of existential, emotional roller coaster.
When did you start? When did you know about this and start working on it?
I mean, it's like 3.5 years ago now.
You shot it 2 years ago.
Shot it 2 years ago, cut it last year, and then the studio were like, we're going to release it in May. So I finished it in September. So then I've been sort of sitting on it, and it's this weird thing where you've done this huge life-changing thing, but no one knows about it or seen it.
It is. I'm sure you would all agree. This is an occupational hazard. You know, I mean, if you're a painter, you just get on with the next painting and
Yeah.
or the next novel.
Yeah.
Right? It is difficult.
It's,
Isn't it?
tell me, when you finished Bleak Moments, were you heartbroken? Did you cry on the hour every hour asking for a friend?
I don't think I actually cried on the hour every. It's a long time ago. I can't really.
I'm finding it so hard. I'm finding it existentially. Like, I'm so proud of it, and I had the best time, but now I just have to let it go off, like my child to school, and I've like put it in a nice outfit, and I've given it a couple of jokes to tell, but I cannot protect it, and I don't know. It feels very strange, and it doesn't belong to me anymore, and I'm finding that weird.
Questions? Anyone have any questions? Yes.
Thank you so much. It was a really enjoyable film. I loved all the kind of the moments between the brothers, and there were just some really beautiful moments that felt so of you. They were really wonderful. I wanted to ask about the casting process. Obviously, you cast tons of people, but I was just interested in, your general casting process and how you began it and how long it took you and wherever you want to go with it.
Yeah. We had Angauri first, and she, I chatted to her, and she was like heaven and interesting and clever and funny, and so we had her first, and then I felt like I'd seen like every boy between the age of 19 and 25 to try and play Owen, and we had a chemistry read lined up with Angauri and like six lads, amazing actors. And the day before, Spike's tape came in, and it was super rough around the edges. And he, part of the casting process had been they had to send in tapes of them singing and playing the guitar as well as doing a tape. And he sent in, and absolutely fooled me, because he sent in a thing of him sort of as the character but writing a song. So he'd have this guitar and he would strum a few notes and go, and then write something down. And I was like, God, that's so clever. He's done it as the character, write a song. It's genius. And turns out he couldn't play the guitar, couldn't sing, wasn't from Manchester. And I was like, fuck. But he was brilliant. And when he came in with Angauri for the first chemistry test, like, as I said, he was the only one who kind of properly unsettled her, and her by him. But and the other way around as well. There was something really, I'd never chemistry tested properly before. So I was like, I don't know what I'm looking for here, just some kind of weird alchemy. And it was that. And yeah, he's heaven.
Another question?
Firstly, congratulations. I found it so entertaining and laughed so much. The question's not like fully formed, but I guess a lot of times I was just struck by like the musicality of it and the editing. Can you tell a little bit about maybe did anything that was different in the script come about during the edit, or things you discovered, or anything that you had to leave out but you know it was really hard?
It used to start in a totally different way. I had we shot this whole other scene of Owen kind of messing about singing on stage and like doing stupid voices and stuff, and that was the beginning for so long, and I just couldn't get it to work, and we didn't need it really in the end as well. That was there was a lot of there was a whole other extra scene basically with him like working in the student union, and Phil Wang like having a go at him, and there was all of this extra stuff, and it took me quite a long time to realize that I didn't need it. You can just go bang straight in. So getting the beginning right took time, but with the edit, I mean, my editor was Phil Hignett. It was his first film, and it was my first film, and he like loves it almost more than I do. But I think we both decided that there was going to be a real musicality to it, and so there were always moments where he'd go, "Is this too far?" Where essentially we would time a sort of gesture to the music. So there's a moment where Phil Wang in the student union, he goes like this, and he goes like that at Owen, and it's like perfectly timed to the music. And editor Phil was like, "Is this too weird?" And I was like, "I kind of like it. It feels like there is a sort of sonic narrator that does kind of carry you through," and we just kind of lent into that, and it felt like a really fun thing. And also it nods to the Manchester music of it all. Felt like, I wanted to sort of hold people.
I can't remember. I'll come to you in a moment. I can't remember this about you, but to what extent does your own student experience play in the film?
Yeah, it's pretty. It I do feel like I've put it I've put it in there, that those kind of like late nights and the
Mind us where you studied.
I was at Exeter. But yeah, the late nights, the sort of messiness, the hungover, the friendship, and yeah, it's all kind of in there. That sort of that was part of the appeal of the script as well. Was there's so few films that show the university experience. I think the last one was Starter for 10, and that was like James McAvoy. And for whatever reason, it's not a stage of life that's put very often on film, and it's so interesting because you're so caught between being a grown up and being a kid, and you're ranging around, you eating too much cheese, and it's just like, yeah, it's a fun time.
Thanks so much. I really enjoyed the film, and thank you for trying to reclaim the rom-com, because I think it's about time. I'm really interested just to hear a bit about your journey from making shorts to coming to a first feature, because that's sort of where I'm at, and it's also a rom-com. So I'm just really interested if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I started as an assistant to different directors, so I didn't go to film school, and started then making sketches and shorts, and I got really lucky 10 years ago with my first TV show. I did a TV show called Pure. I did the second block of that, and I've done a bunch of TV since, and this was my first feature that I sort of pitched on. So I feel I feel like everyone has a totally different journey, but that was sort of it.
Just out of interest, share with us your thoughts about the difference between doing the tellies and making a feature.
Oh man, it was totally different. I mean, this is the first time I got to pick my HODs, and Carson probably had never been able to choose the HODs before, and that was so joyous to actually go, okay, how are all of you people going to work together, and this is the pitch and what we're doing, and it was that was a real joy, and also to just have to focus on one story, and you're not worrying about like what's the other block director doing and some other showrunner. You just can kind of get on with it. I loved it so much for just having to focus on this cohesive one thing.
On the shoot, what was the catering like?
It was pretty good. Actually, was it good? I think I blocked it out. It was it was hit and miss. I think at the start it's always good, and then by the end everyone's like,
depends on the caterer.
Well, yeah, true.
Any more questions? Yes.
Congratulations on the film, and indeed on Pure, which was terrific. Did you have a sense of set pieces, of feeling that, given that you were in a genre, that it was time to either do a set piece, like bringing the podcast really public, or to defy it in other places?
Yeah, I think with the sort of rom-com tropes, part of my initial process was like, what are the tropes? And it's running, there's a big declaration, there's rain. And I was like, what are we, and some big sort of public embarrassment invariably. And so I really interrogated why they were there, and having initially been like, I don't want them to run, why can't they just fast walk? But you sort of realize that you need all of these, but I sort of wanted to try and breathe new life into them. So there was definitely a big kind of thought process behind it. And with the big set pieces like the podcast, that was our main one. That I was like, what are we doing here?
There were three there.
Hi, thank you. It was amazing to watch this film, and especially for a comedy. And I'm a huge fan of romantic comedies, so it's really nice to see the good one finally. And all the films that you mentioned, like When Harry Met Sally and stuff like this, you can see like kind of the influence maybe with colors and dressing and stuff like this. But I want to ask you one question about, since this was your first feature film, was there something that, some core idea of the film or something like this that you were not willing to compromise or listen to other people and things like this? And I also I know you said you are not here to be interrogated, but I really want to know what is Mike Leigh's favorite romantic comedy. Thank you.
Excellent question. What is your favorite rom-com?
As you've reminded everybody, I'm not here to be interrogated. So
is it When Harry Met Sally?
I'd like to answer the first question.
Is it Clueless? What was the question of like, was there anything that I dug my heels in? I mean, I guess with the two-shot thing was something that I sort of let into, and there was a lot of times when the studio were like, can we cut to a close-up here? And I hadn't shot a lot of them, so I guess that was my slightly defiant way of dealing with that. Was like, well, I didn't shoot it, but yeah, there's. I think I feel so hard to remember now. The producers and the audience, I can't remember. Was there anything that I sort of dug my heels in about? Yeah, so yeah, less. I wasn't that interested in sort of like other detail. I just kind of wanted to stay with the couple, I guess, and yeah, there was. I don't feel like anyone was anywhere that angry that I didn't get any stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember it. It feels like a weird blur now.
And there was a third question over there.
Hi, congratulations. So my question is, given that you're a writer yourself and that you've in the past directed your own text, what was your relationship with this script like that somebody else had? Did they give it to you sort of semi-formed, or was it your idea? And was it love at first sight? What was the experience of going from being a writer-director to being a director?
I mean, yeah, I was sent it like formed, and then me and her worked. But I had lots of thoughts how I wanted to give it an authenticity and give it a depth and give it a kind of other element of things going on in their life. So me and Rachel, the writer, worked really closely to give it more and yeah, to just kind of ask all the questions like why are all of these bits here and interrogate everything together. So yeah, it was a different thing. It was nice, I guess, to sort of have someone else be there and it was her idea. She'd done all of the like main work and this whole structure is hers. But it was nice to then just have someone to go like, but why and what else and what other detail can we add and yeah, it was a different thing. But I guess because I'd also directed TV, which is written by other people, so you kind of get used to coming in and going, what's my additional bit here?
Did you invent any scenes during the shoot?
Well, I guess to be honest, when we were location scouting, the script was always meant to end in the Stoller Hall where he comes in and she does her speech, and that was where it ended. And then when we went to Recce, we were standing in that place. I was like, it can't end here. It can't. It didn't feel like either the characters would ever kind of kiss in public like that, kiss in front of their, like she wouldn't kiss in front of her whole like students and the whatever, and he's way too sort of introverted like that to do it. So I was like, we need another scene. So I added the scene at the end where she runs out after him and does that. And I guess also the decision on the day when we were shooting that Stoller Hall stuff is we had a last minute decision to go, what if if everyone in this room could still hear them outside? That was a decision that just happened on the day. And we were like, okay, well, let's just shoot really quickly, everyone listening. And so I just sort of stood on stage reading out what was happening while the whole like audience just reacted. And then Prasanna, who plays the professor, was so good. His ad-lib line of like, oh God, we're going to hear the whole thing was so genius. And so, yeah, the whole ending really shifted just from being in that space.
It's interesting how often the place and the space, the location sends you messages and informs what's going to actually happen.
Yeah, it was super interesting.
Any more? Well, we've already started the questions, actually, you might have noticed. Yes.
Hello, congratulations. I love the film. As a northerner who lives in London, was it always going to be Manchester? Because that felt like the kind of third member of the love triangle.
Yeah, it was always Manchester. The writer's from just outside, so she set it there. And it was also like such a pull for me because this, as I say, so much is set in London. It was so exciting to go there and put it on screen because it hadn't been really put there before. So yeah, and it definitely became a third character.
I mean, the Manchester these days, for a while, the Manchester student experience is quite specific, isn't it? Because there are a lot of different institutions, and it's a great student city, isn't it? So that's relevant, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we recce'd lots of different university buildings, and ended up there with the quad, which we only had for a couple of days, I think, in the end. It was, but yeah, there's lots of different spaces, and like I say, our location department were amazing at kind of figuring out where would feel the most authentic to these specific students.
Yes. There's one. Oh, sorry. There's one there. There, you've got it.
Hiya, thank you so much for this film. You talked a bit about the evolution of the rom-com, and it was so refreshing to see a male character presented for current times. Could you talk a bit about where you think rom-com is going as a genre, and what are your hopes for that?
I always joke that I didn't make a rom-com. I made a political thriller, but I don't know. I mean, I just made sort of one that I wanted to see. I guess I think, like I say, I feel like they've got a bad rep and they've done badly. But hopefully, I mean, I don't know. I honestly couldn't say. People keep saying to me, "It's the return of the rom-com," and I'm like, "Is it? What else is being made? I don't know." But for me, the whole plan was just to try and do something that felt a bit like honest and authentic and not too glossy. So yeah.
Maybe it's not important. Maybe the rom-com aspect of all this is not as important as the film. I mean, the film stands in its own terms without us referencing rom-coms as such, I would personally suggest.
Well, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said, so thanks very much.
No, I think it's important that we don't get bogged down by rom-com preoccupations. The film works in its own organic terms. Another question is that, yes.
Hi. Yes, it was lovely. It was a good film. Thank you very much. It was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. What I do wonder is when Owen finally meets Amelie, in the development of the script, was there any consideration for a while that it might have a tiny bit of life to it, that relationship, having invested so much in it in his head, and perhaps in reality, because obviously it was a precious meeting when they met, but when they came to meet in the bar, at that first meeting, did you consider in the script development, we could have a glimmer of hope that something would happen here, and then his realization that he's very invested with Emily, or was it always as soon as they met it was going to be a type of a flop?
I think there was always going to be a bit of a glimmer, because I think in my head, if he just called her the next day, it could have been great, and that was sort of always the plan. Is that it's just this life is timing, and stuff had happened in the last 2 weeks. So there's there was a glimmer, but I guess we kind of left it a bit open. She can't live up to the fantasy that he projected onto her, and also she like other stuff's happened. So it was meant to be a glimmer.
There's one more question, and the lady here was advising.
Hi, I really loved it. Alicia's amazing. I was just wondering, with Emily being American, whether that was a very conscious thing thematically with the film, having like a really British human story going on, but also in the plot having sort of Americanisms of the sort of classic high school plots or that kind of thing, whether her being American and him being British was the coming together of those things, or was part of that about appealing to a global audience? What was...
She was always American in the script that I got, and I think it's part of those sort of big romantic comedy tropes of the American girl and British indie band boy, so she was always American, and I quite sort of liked it. She had to be a fish out of water. She had to be far away from home, and not quite sort of comfortable in herself there. So it was always a thing, because I think if she'd been a Brit, I don't know if it would have worked in the same way. They needed to have a bit, she needed an otherness to both of them.
Alicia Macdonald.
Mike Leigh!
This podcast was recorded at a Directors UK member event. You can hear plenty more directors in conversation by subscribing on the usual streaming platforms. Follow us on social media and find out more about us at directors.uk.com.